I just got done recording a podcast episode that I'll be releasing to you later next month in June that I'm excited to share. But there were some things that came up as a result of that conversation that I really wanted to share with you. So I'm popping in with this brief recording to talk about this. So the podcast episode is about honoring your cycles in business and learning how to be successful in business while still honoring your cycles. And so it was specifically focused on women and women's cycles or feminine cycles. So in the masterclass, I did a segment on yin and yang energy. And I just want to highlight a couple things that came out of this conversation about how we view feminine energy and how we view masculine energy. Of course, most of us are familiar, have heard the phrase toxic masculinity, which I think is a horrible phrase, and I think we need to erase that phrase from our culture because masculinity is not toxic. And the fact that we see certain masculine traits as toxic or as dangerous or things like that is really problematic, and it is reflective of certain things that are happening in our consciousness. And what came up during this podcast recording was the concept of viewing the feminine in a negative or toxic way. So specifically, so if you were in the masterclass, you may recall, and if not, I'll give you a quick overview that a feminine energy moves in cycles, and you can think of it as the four seasons with spring, summer, fall, and winter. And so the energy, you can sort of imagine matching what a standard, four season, if you live someplace that has four seasons, what that might look like, with spring and summer being high productivity and high energy, and fall being, shedding and letting go, and oftentimes intuition. And then winter also being intuition and also deep rest and recovery. And so that's the feminine energy cycle, and the masculine energy cycle is more linear. And what we were talking about today is the masculine energy cycle, the masculine hormones operating typically on a 24-hour cycle that more or less matches our current standard business day. And the challenges of somebody with a feminine cycle working within that yang energy, that masculine energy, where you're expected to have consistent productive energy all the time. And the point that I wanted to address, or that came up today, that I wanted to speak to here, is that the way we talk about different parts of a woman's cycle or the feminine cycle, right? So if a woman is PMSing, maybe like, oh, she's emotional, she's crazy, she's a female dog, she's bitchy, right? And we really have these negative connotations where if you really tune in to what's happening within a woman at that time. So the point that this person made that I'm excited to share with you is the magic or the power within each part of that phase. And so we really do see productivity in our culture. We see productivity as good and resting or non-productivity as bad. And if we can start noticing that in a woman's cycle or in a feminine cycle, there is something important that's happening in each part of that cycle. So in the fall, shedding of the old, there's so much that we can tap into the importance of that. Even in the business world, can we shed things that are not working for us in our businesses, right? And also like I said, it tends to be a time of intuition. So if you know that a woman who is maybe right before her menses, for a woman that's still cycling, and this is true even if you're not cycling, it just looks a little different. But if you know, like, oh, right here, so for some people it might be when they're PMSy, it can also be a time of heightened intuition and clarity and creativity. And so if you're aware of that, being able to tap into that. And so the part that I really wanted to highlight is noticing how we as a society are still speak in negative ways about aspects that are specific to and important for the feminine cycle. And we really only speak positively of the part of the cycle that's the yang energy, the productive energy. And if we can start moving away from, oh, you're lazy because you're resting, right? Or you're being bitchy because you're your sensitivities are heightened. That's what happens, right? At that time of your cycle, your sensitivities are heightened. And if we can start acknowledging the beautiful aspects or the important aspects, the powerful aspects of each part of the cycle. So for men to understand that and recognize, oh, a woman or a feminine person is in this part of their cycle, and let me honor kind of where they're at, right? So this is the deconstructing of the subconscious beliefs that are present. Some of them may not be subconscious, some of them are, we speak them, we may speak negatively about a woman who's PMSing, but we don't really tap into like what's underneath those things that we're saying. And that's the subconscious beliefs that I'm referring to, that we are really deeply ingrained in our society, where we view feminine cycles a certain way, and in a negative way. And if you can start deconstructing that and understanding what is the subconscious belief, and start releasing that, and then also tapping into what's the polar opposite of that, what is the positive, what is the power that is happening in that part of the cycle, and start honoring that in yourself. So, because of course yin and yang, masculine and feminine, are both of us, but honoring that within yourself, and then honoring that within others. When you see that, oh, they're in a certain part of their yin cycle, I'm gonna honor that and respect that. And so moving away from the toxic ideas or negative ideas we have about feminine nature, and starting to really understand what is the power of femininity. And then the same thing in reverse for men, right? So I already touched on briefly toxic masculinity, and what are the things that the negative attributes that we connect with masculine energy. Is it dangerous? Is it aggressive? Is it overly sexualized? Is it uncaring or selfish or predatory? What are the negative things that we believe about masculine energy? And again, some of these beliefs might be overt, right? Where we know that we say certain things, or it might be more subtle, and maybe again the words aren't subtle, but we may say things that have a negative connotation. And if you pause and notice what you're saying, pause and notice kind of at the same time what you're saying, and then start noticing what is the belief that's underneath. And then you can start shifting that belief and being like, wait a minute, there's a positive and negative in everything. So in the masterclass, we also talked about polarity and duality. We live in a world of duality. There's a positive and negative to everything. So if I can look at, okay, what are the negative words I'm saying about men or about masculine energy? There's some element of truth, right? A woman who's PMSy is maybe, more bitchy, more aggressive, more irritable, right? So looking at what are the negative things I'm saying, and then what's the light, the opposite of, not the opposite, but like the light side of it. There's a dark side and the light side, like the dark side of the moon and the light side of the moon. What's the light side of it? So maybe, for example, a negative expression might be, men are so childish and don't take responsibility. For example, I don't know, I'm just picking at things, right? There's also like a playfulness about masculine energy that's so fun and so beautiful. And so if you can embrace, okay, there's the negative aspect and the positive aspect. And you can start, first, it's important to understand what are the negative things that I'm saying or thinking or believing, or that society is saying, that may be ingrained in the way that I interact. That's the bottom line. What are the negative beliefs that we hold in our collective as a culture, in our collective way of being? I don't want to say collective consciousness because that has a different meaning, but I mean literally like the way that we speak as a society. What are what's the negative frequency that's running kind of underneath the way that we're speaking? Deconstructing that belief and then shifting it so that you can actually allow for masculinity. You can allow for femininity because you're no longer in fear of it, or you're no longer afraid to express it. You're no longer afraid of persecution, right? You may be afraid of the trade, or you may be afraid of persecution or some other fear, right? But if you can identify and deconstruct those hidden beliefs, And then you can really embrace the power and beauty of both the masculine and the feminine energy. You can understand that they both need to be present in order for this world to function. We can hold both, you can hold both of them in equal merit and equal value, but you're holding that value in what is actually present, right? So you're valuing yin for the beauty of yin, for the feminine, for the beauty of the feminine, and you're honoring the yang, the masculine, for the beauty of the masculine, right? You're not imposing, oh, I think productivity is masculine. That's what we're talking about in the workforce, about the workforce. Productivity is this yang energy. Productivity is positive, and I'm going to take that value and impose it on the yin. Well, if you do that, then the yin becomes a lower value, right? And vice versa. If you're like, oh, well, the beauty of the yin is the cycle and the birth and the flow. Well, the masculine isn't in flow, and I'm going to impose my value of what I like about the feminine. I'm going to impose it on the masculine. And if they're not flowing like the feminine, then I don't like them, right? So I'm combining two different concepts. One is understanding what are the negative beliefs we hold about the masculine and we hold about the feminine. And then in addition to that, if we can identify the value of the masculine and the value of the feminine and hold those equally true, so avoid imposing the value of the masculine onto the feminine and vice versa. Right. So we have to deconstruct our negative beliefs, let go of those negative beliefs, understand the value of each, hold them both as equally valuable and honor both so that they can be present together. Because as we talked about in the masterclass, when they're present together, that's when co-creation happens. And they're present together within each person. And then they're also they need to be present together in your relationships, within each other, within the workplace, honoring the masculine and the feminine energy within the workplace. What does that look like? That's a whole different way of running the world, honoring both the masculine and the feminine and allowing there to be room for both of them to exist. My favorite topic. And so this is exactly what we are going to be doing in Unity, the 7-month programs that starts in June. Exactly what I just talked about. Deconstructing these subconscious beliefs that you may not even know that you're holding, then understanding what is the value, and then understanding how to express that value within yourself first. If you can own the value within yourself and express it within yourself, you can then bring it to your relationships. You can then bring it to your work and your business and your career. And integrated all with that then is core wounds that might also be showing up and kind of making it difficult for you to actually fully honor your feminine, for example, or fully on whatever it is. There might be I'm quite sure, because we all carry them, core wounds. And so we're also going to be then addressing those core wounds and healing those core wounds. So that's going to be the focus of Unity. I'm super excited about this. It's such an important topic, especially with the way the world is shifting right now. And a future is being created where this is going to be our reality of honoring the feminine and the masculine, and the way business is going to be run and the way the world is going to be run is going to look very different. Right now, those systems are falling, and that's really scary for a lot of people. And for people who are able to see kind of what's happening and understand this future that's coming, you are the leaders of this new future. It sounds a little like big, sounds big, right? But it's true. Like if you're able to understand all this, you're the leaders of creating this new future. And if you are able to really like step into what I was just describing and come into that unity within yourself, the balance of the yin and yang within yourself, coming into the wholeness of yourself, the full expression of yourself, you're going to be an integral part of creating this new future that's already coming, and being able to guide others to understand, because it's so scary for so many people. You're going to be able to guide others like, hey, this isn't scary. This is actually just doing business in a feminine model, which maybe you don't understand, or maybe it's doing business integrating the feminine and the masculine, and there's dissonance because we're not used to doing that, and it's okay, and let me show you how to do that. So those of you who are hearing this and are excited about this and are ready to do this, you are the leaders of this new future. And I'm so excited to support you and guide you in coming into this wholeness and unity within yourself, so we can create a better world. See you in unity.